Okay, let's just dive right into this, shall we? Welcome back to today's explainer. Look, if you've ever just stared blankly at a screen, typed out a hopeful prompt to an AI like Claude or ChatGPT, and literally crossed your fingers hoping for something usable, well, you're definitely in the right place. Today, we're looking at this absolutely brilliant methodology from the design and development studio Troiana. We're going to explore their specific framework that will basically transform you from a hopeful guesser into a total precision prompter. We're talking about the top-down prompting framework. To really wrap our heads around why this framework is a total game changer, I want you to think about a taxi ride, right? Imagine jumping into the back of a cab, slamming the door, and immediately just ranting to the driver about the bridge traffic, the terrible weather, and your super tight schedule before finally, like 10 minutes later, mumbling your actual address. I mean, you would never do that. You give the destination first. And as Troiana points out so perfectly, you need to state the destination before the directions when you're working with AI too.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, destination before directions. Second, the top-down prompt framework. Third, we'll see the framework in action. And finally, some mistakes and advanced tips.
All right, section 1, destination before directions, diagnosing the problem. Let's be real for a second. We have all been here. You ask the AI for something, and what you get back is, well, it's technically correct based on the exact words you typed, but it's completely useless for your actual real-world purpose. It sounds totally robotic, it misses the entire nuance, or it hones in on exactly the wrong detail. So why does this happen so consistently? Well, this brings us to Troiana's core diagnosis, and it hits the nail on the head. It's because the outcome is buried. When you just sort of imply what you want, or worse, you bury the actual goal at the very bottom of some massive paragraph, the AI just optimizes for the random words it can see. It doesn't instinctively know what you actually need. It just reads text. So if the true goal isn't front and center, the AI is essentially driving blind. Let's move to section 2 and see how this builds, the top-down prompt framework, the 4-part solution. Okay, this sequence right here, this is the structural backbone of our explainer today. And honestly, it should probably become the backbone of literally every prompt you write from now on. The top-down structure has 4 distinct steps. Number 1, the outcome, leading with the finished thing you actually want. Number 2, the constraints, setting those strict boundaries. Number 3, the context, adding your necessary background info. And finally, number 4, the ask, making the specific request. The real magic here is in the order. Everything else is basically just in service to that very first step, the outcome. Which brings us to section 3, the framework in action, the rejection email case study. So, how does this actually look when we use it out in the wild? Let's apply this exact sequence to a high-stakes, real-world business scenario, writing a candidate rejection email. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast between how most people use AI and how professionals use it. That generic prompt on the left, it's lazy. Write a rejection email. You are absolutely guaranteeing a robotic, generic output with that. But on the right, we have a top-down prompt that hits all 4 of Troiana's structural steps. Let's break that structured prompt down piece by piece. Step 1 is the outcome. Instead of just saying, a rejection email, we clearly define the destination. I want a rejection email that keeps the candidate warm for future roles. Do you see the difference there? By stating this very specific outcome right at the starting line, it fundamentally shapes the tone, the length, and the depth of every single word the AI is going to generate next. Next up, we feed it the constraints and the context. We tell it 2 short paragraphs, warm but honest, no false promises. Boom, those are our boundaries. Then we give the context. They interviewed well, but we picked someone with more infra experience. I mean, think about the stakes here. These specific constraints and context markers are exactly what prevent the AI from making embarrassing professional mistakes. Like overpromising a job that doesn't actually exist, or writing some cold, terrible corporate brush-off. And finally, we get to the ask. And look at how beautifully simple this is. Draft it. That's it. Because we perfectly stated the destination first, built the guardrails, and gave the background, the actual directions at the very end can be incredibly brief. The heavy lifting, it was already done by structuring the thought process right at the top. All right, moving on to section 4, mistakes and advanced tips, guardrails for success. Now that you can really see the power of this structure, let's set up some essential guardrails for your prompting success. Troiana outlines a few super common traps that beginners tend to fall into. Number 1 is the classic context dump, leading with a massive pile of background info, but never actually stating the outcome, which basically just forces the AI to guess the goal.
Number 2 is confusing the task with the outcome. And number 3 is over-specifying tiny microscopic details while completely leaving the actual purpose unsaid.
So the crucial point here is really, truly understanding that second mistake. There's a vital difference between just giving the AI a basic chore versus giving it a strategic human goal. Write an email is a task. A machine can do a task no problem. But keep this candidate warm for later? That is an outcome. That requires tone, strategy, and empathy. Always, always prompt for the outcome. Now, for those of you wanting to take this to the next level, Troiana offers this brilliant advanced strategy. If you aren't exactly sure what good looks like just yet, add one single line of success criteria telling the AI exactly how you are going to judge its output. By explicitly naming those criteria, you actually often improve your own clarity about the project just as much as you improve the AI's answer. It's a real win-win. Of course, knowing when not to use a tool is just as important as knowing how to use it, right? You should absolutely use this top-down framework every time the output has a specific job to do, like a document for a specific reader or code for a specific system. But you can skip this framework entirely if you're just doing genuinely open exploration where you want to be surprised, or if you're just asking for a trivial fact where there really is no strategic outcome to manage. Which brings us to our final takeaway, and it's honestly a bit of a provocative thought based on Troiana's insights. When we struggle with AI, we really love to blame the machine. But forcing yourself to state the destination first, it holds up a mirror to your own process. It begs the question, do you actually know what you want before you start typing? Because as it turns out, figuring out exactly what you want is half the battle. Once you know your true destination, the AI is more than happy to drive you there. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this transforms the way you work.